Bienvenidos a Colombian Accents. Welcome. Bienvenidos.
Carolina, thank you so much for being with us here in Colombian Accents. It's a pleasure to have you here. How have you been?
Well, Juli, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I've been well. Yeah, I've been. Yeah.
So how's the confinement? How's the stay at home process going so far?
Wow, it's been quite a while already. You know, like every day feels different. It's done a lot of things for me. I mean, it's been crazy in many different levels, but it's been okay. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm sure it's been crazy for most of us as well. Carolina, before we go on the conversation, now I have so much to ask you, but before we go on, would you do me a favor? Would you please introduce yourself to the audience? Tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what you do, please.
Okay, Juli, thank you. So, I'm Carolina Rodriguez Buitrago. I am a multitasker. I am a mom of two beautiful kids. My daughter is 7 and my son is 4. I am a teacher, passionate about teaching more than anybody else. Well, probably you already have one of those passionate teachers here in the show too. Um, I am an aspiring researcher. I dream of being a researcher, but still kind of at the beginning of that very, very long path. And well, I have been working as a teacher for over 20 years. I've been a teacher longer than I have been a mom, so that's why I'm better at being a teacher than I'm at being a mom. And well, I have tried many, many different things in my day. One of them is technology. I started working with educational technology in 2007, more or less. So yeah, I've been working with technology for over 13 years, I guess, and I'm a teacher of languages. Like originally, I studied to be a language teacher, but I took the path of teacher in language education. I am a teacher trainer. I work at a licenciatura program, and I have worked in master's programs, specialist programs. I love to train teachers. I think that's a passion for me more than anything else, is just to have the contact with teachers. And back in 2014, I came across flipped learning, fell in love, and stayed there. And right now, that was like 1.5 years ago, because of a situation lived by a student, I also fell in love with positive psychology and social emotional learning. So right now I'm trying to meet my two loves, you know, educational technology, flipped learning, and positive psychology into what I do every day.
Awesome, Carolina. Awesome. Now that you're at home most of the time, I wanted to ask you, how have you dealt with homeschool, and what was the most difficult part of being a homeschool parent? And do you have any advice for parents out there like myself?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, the thing is, first days were terrible. Were very, very difficult because of many things. My children, as I mentioned, are little. So my daughter is 7 and my son is 4. My son's kindergarten canceled the contract on us, so we have no structure for my kid. We have no activities, we have nothing. They did say they were not capable of delivering this type of education for us, and
Well, that's
so we're
honest. That's
like,
good.
yeah, we're left alone. We're left alone with this. Luckily, my daughter's school, on the other hand, are very well prepared. They have done amazing things. They have been amazing with us parents. They have taken into consideration our needs, our fears, our insecurities, and they have prepared materials, platforms. They have done many things to help us. So I think it balanced things out, because it was like super high support from one school and no support from the other, you know? So that was the first thing, kind of getting adjusted to all this scheduling thing, which I am not going to tell you, Juli, that I have it sorted out. Not yet. Still kind of difficult every day to juggle all the many things that I have. But the first thing that I am grateful for in this quarantine is that I'm getting to know my kids. And I know that sounds weird and horrible, but we spend 8 hours of our day or more out of the house. We share with our kids 2 or 3 hours of quality time every day. With this, I'm spending 24 hours a day with them. I am getting to know what they like, what they don't like, how they are, their strengths, and this is priceless. This is priceless. What do I advise to other parents? Enjoy it. Take advantage of this. Then, when we go back to the real world, we go back to getting out of the house every day, not spending time with them, not cooking for them, not playing with them, not hanging out with them, just being with them and let them be with us. So I think that is something that is priceless of this time. I'm not going to tell you that I'm 24/7 playing with my kids. Of course not. I get angry, I yell, pick up the toys, don't hit your sister, because we're normal people. But I am enjoying them so much, and I'm contemplating them. Like, I'm looking at them. I'm about to get all teared up, like my heart just got full.
But I get it. I get it. I have a 3-year-old, and
Yeah.
I completely get you. I understand. I'm listening to you carefully here
Yeah.
because you're so right about that. You're so right. It gives you that chance to be so close to your
Yeah.
kids that, yeah, you spend a little time away from them. Yeah, thank you,
So
Carol.
many times I told my students when I was in the classroom, I told my students, oh, I would love to spend more time with my kids. I would love to be able to go home early and be with them. And I know for a lot of people, this quarantine is a pain and they are suffering through it. But I'm enjoying it, Julia. I have to be honest with you. I'm enjoying it because I'm home, because I'm with them, because I get to make them real cool stuff for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Because even though that's hard, like it's a lot of work, it's also, I don't know, I get the chance to be who I want to be. That is a mother and a worker and a teacher all at the same time in the same place. So it's a challenge, but it's a good challenge. And so my advice for parents would be, don't worry about the academics. I'm surprised at how fast my kids pick things up and how devoted they are to what they do. But what I'm giving them time is to play together, to be together. Yeah, we do homework, we sit down and stuff, but we read, we do the handcrafts together. Um, and I think this is a moment to teach them. And not to teach them math or science. It's a moment to teach them about life, about solidarity, about caring for other people who don't have the privileges we have. It's a moment to share. It's a moment to cook together. You learn math by cooking the ingredients, like all these things. So it's don't try to be your children's teacher because you're not. You're their parent. And so that's the only advice I would have, because it's the only advice I am applying. I am a teacher, but I'm a teacher of university students. I do not see myself working in first grade or in kindergarten. Oh, God forbid. I do not see myself there. And I did not pick
That's
that
for
up for
special people.
myself. Yeah, that's for special people. Big shout out to all those kindergarten and first grade teachers
Oh,
out
yeah.
there. You are amazing. Trust me. I know that now.
You mentioned a little bit earlier research, and I remember I'm a person who has been in love with technology since an early age. My dream was to make a living sitting in front of a computer typing things. And now when they ask me what do you do, I just say I'm a good keyboard operator. And
Okay.
but my point is, I came across flipped learning around 2008, 2009, and it became a serious thing and more organized later on. The flipped learning movement came in. There were many questions about, what is it really? Because it sounds like many other things. So my question to you, Carolina, is, what is flipped learning, please, Carolina?
Well, I would say that flipped learning is a lot of things, but it's not a lot of things. A lot of people just get confused with watching videos. You just send videos home and then that's flipped learning. Well, that's not it. Yeah, flipped learning, there are two official definitions per se. Like, one definition is by the Flip Learning Network and the other one is by the Flip Learning Global Initiative. Both of them are born with the people who kind of coined the term flip learning, that were Aaron Sams and John Bergman. This term had been around before, like people like Platt and Treglia and Baker in 2000, they had already started inverting their classrooms, and they talked about inverted classroom. They talked about sending stuff home. I don't know if you know iTunes U. So there's like this bunch of lectures recorded up in iTunes. and people just watched those lectures, listened, sorry, not even videos. They just listened to the lectures on audio, and then just went to class and the teacher answered questions. But the flipped learning model has advanced and evolved so much because it is so versatile, and it is because it is a mindset, you know. Flip learning, it's not just a technique, it is a mindset. Once you flip, you never go back. Why? Because you change the teacher you were before. And you cannot just, you know, change that every day. Yeah, you either convince yourself that you're a flipped educator or you're not. And what does it mean? It has 4 components. I love the pillars of flipped learning proposed by the Flipped Learning Network that are F, flexible environments, L, learning culture, I, intentional content, and P, professional educator. So when you put all those things together, then you have a flipped environment. Flipped learning is when you put students at the center of the learning process. It's when you make real all that utopia of facilitation of learning. And when you use technology, if you have it at hand, you know, to facilitate the learning for your students. So it's not something that it's just technology based, because you can flip without technology. A lot of teachers are doing that right now. And it's not about, you know, it's as one of my flipper friends, Helene Marshall, says, it's not the flavor of the month. It's not something you just change, you know, and then you go back to the fronted classroom. No, because you cannot do it. So once you flip, you start kind of changing the way you think about teaching and learning. And you focus more on learning than on teaching, you know, so that's when you start including stuff like gamification, project-based learning, task-based learning, and then you put into a little bit more of mastery learning and so many more things, because now you have much more time because you're not talking in front of the classroom. So you have a lot more time to do all these great things you always thought you would do if you had the time. So now you have the time, so you get on and you do it. You can in-class flip, you can do so many things. And through that path, answering the question, oh my God, what am I going to do now with all this time? You know, I found Hyperdogs. I always pronounce that wrong. It's not Hyperdogs, like what? No, it's Hyperdogs, like DOC. I found that, you know, towards trying to get better at flipping. I'll tell you about that in a moment.
Awesome. All right, Caro, thank you so much. There's so much going on with flipped learning and the flipped learning model. It sounds to me that the most important thing right there you said is the mindset that you have for it. When you're an adult and you work in professional development, you learn differently. You're supposed to do a lot of the learning on your own. And when you come to the sessions, the trainings and all of that, it's a time for you to ask questions and do hands-on activities and actually have the experience of the learning that you did previously. That sounds like something exciting, difficult to do in the past, but I think nowadays that's exactly where we're heading. So I wanted to ask you something else. Now, you mentioned Hyperdogs, and I will go into that in a minute because I did read some of your research. I'm a follower. So I did some of your research. I did some reading and I found it fascinating, especially because it's research that's being done here in Colombia, and I just love that because there's so much for us to learn from each other here. Now, without the actual brick and mortar, without the actual walls of the schools, how have your courses changed now that are 100% e-learning? Because before there was in-class flipped, as you mentioned before, but now it's 100% e-learning. How have they changed?
Yeah, well, that's something interesting to notice. Remember the pillars, right? I mentioned the 4 pillars of flipped learning. So one of them is learning culture. The second one is learning culture. And the learning culture is to build that culture with your students and your coworkers and everybody in the institution where learning is what's supposed to happen. So you set up rules, and you don't set up those rules. Your students set up the rules in the classroom. So they are the ones who decide what is right, what is wrong, what is acceptable or unacceptable in your classroom. You are especially focused on building relationships with your students when you flip. So the relationships are so strong, that they are the most important part of the whole equation of learning. So you know what happened, Holly? As I had built that learning culture in my class in that month that we had, no problem. My students feel they can talk to me. So when they felt overwhelmed and they were so sad about the fact that we were not having face-to-face classes, we talked about it. We used an entire Teams session to talk about that. And they felt better. They opened up their hearts. They told me, and they asked me how I could help them to make this experience better. We negotiated, we talked, and we decided the new rules. We decided on the new rules of this online setting. So some of those new rules affect me. Some of them affect them, but that is what a community or a learning culture is all about. That's another of the pillars is flexible environment. So does it really matter that we don't have chairs or boards? No, because we're flexible. We know this is what we have. And we do what we can with what we have. That's what we do as educators, right? And students have also realized that they have to do that. And I love to teach in a pre-service teacher program because this gives me the opportunity to get all these thoughts into those young minds who will later go into classrooms, So yes, it's been a challenge. Yes, it's been tougher on some students than on others. But we have talked about it, we have negotiated, we have decided on ways to tackle this situation that are beneficial for both, I don't pressure them with so much extra work because they are supposed to sit down in front of the computer for 8 hours. I don't think that's healthy. So I decided with them together that one of my sessions will be synchronous and the other asynchronous. So that they have enough work, to do. They know that they're supposed to work on that in my time of class, but they can do it by hand. They can read from paper. They can do different things so they can stay away from the computer, right? We included active pauses in the synchronous sessions because they were too tired of sitting down for so long. So every hour we have an active pause, and we have meditation, and we have some breathing exercises, and we have some stretching exercises, during the time that we have in class. But all these things have happened because communication is pivotal in my classrooms. I'm not imposing anything. This is not for me. This is for my students. So I ask them, how do you feel? Constant feedback all the time. How are these activities? How are you liking this? What do you think of quizzes? What do you think of Kahoot? Do you like this exercise? Do you like this activity? And so they feel so included that they're so empowered to just say, yes, I like this. I don't like this. Can we try to do this? Can we not do this again? And it's a community. So I think that's how it worked without the brick and mortar classroom.
Communication and feedback and working as a community. Definitely. I love that. Thank you. This is great. To because right now these are the type of ideas and activities and specific detail ways of doing things that you need to know because of your experience. Thank you, Carolina. Thank you so much. Now you said there that there are problems. There are students that lack connectivity, and I wanted to ask you for low tech. How do you do flipped learning with low tech? How do you do that?
Yeah, well, funny you should ask, because I have a student in San Andres, for example. Zero connectivity for this girl, and so we had to create some contingency plan for her where we use WhatsApp. She has a phone, she has a data plan, so what we do is she does stuff by hand, and then she takes pictures and sends them over via WhatsApp. I record the sessions on Teams, and she watches them when connectivity is higher in the island, like when the traffic is heavy, there's no way she can connect to a Teams class. But since we record the sessions, then when it's later in the day or when it's not so much traffic, then she can go and watch them. Yeah. Also, it's like we're forgetting the importance of books and notebooks, So my students, they mention, teacher, why don't we do something by hand? Why don't we do something on the notebook? And then we take a picture of it. I'm like, fine, you want to do a mind map? You want to create a picture? You want to do something by hand? Just go ahead and do it, And then you take a picture and you send it over to me. So it's being flexible. This flexible environment in flipped learning, I think, is what really makes things happen and really helps people. I have another student, Julian. I am also working in the specialist program that we have at Unica in bilingual education. And one of my students, a big shout out to her, Luzmila Mora. She is a teacher in okay, this is a very long word. I have to think about it. It's Instituto Departamental Rural. You know, it's like a very hidden place, 40 minutes away from La Vega, Cundinamarca. And she was mentioning that her students only have WhatsApp. Like there's no way they're gonna have a computer or internet connection. Actually, WhatsApp fails when it's too foggy up in the mountain. So they don't have the possibility to even connect to WhatsApp. So in her case, she's been doing everything analog, you know, just creating working like worksheets, creating videos that she sends via WhatsApp for whenever they can watch, audios via WhatsApp, and also, you know, that helps. So I guess right now WhatsApp is a huge tool for a lot of people because it's the only thing they have. But it's not a matter of tools, it's a matter of mindset. Because if you have the right mindset, you can teach an amazing class with a cork, you know? But if you don't have the right mindset, you can have all the tools in the world and still see only the problems. So I just totally think that's a mindset thing.
Yeah, even if you send a USB flash drive with information, if the kid or the student has a computer but not connectivity, that could work. And mobile learning, definitely. There's so much you can do with your mobiles. Yeah, but it's all how to do the best with what you got at hand, and that's a mentality.
Yeah. One of my students in one of the master's programs where I have worked, she was trying to flip her class. She was flipping her class, and her students didn't have a computer at home. That was back in, I don't know, like 4 years ago or something. What she did was that she burned a CD with the videos that she needed the people to watch, a DVD, sorry, because she did a diagnostic test and all the houses had a DVD player. So she burned a DVD player with the videos, and then what turned out was that the whole family was watching the English videos, you know, like all the family was learning because they had only one TV at home with one DVD. And so if the kid had to watch the videos, everybody had to watch the videos. So yeah, it is a matter of just mentality. How much do you want this to work? That's it, you know?
Definitely. Like much things in life, like many things in life, really. Yeah, definitely. Very good. Now, Carolina, many people are maybe out there listening to you and saying, wow, interesting, but you know, you've been doing that for a while. I'm just starting here because they asked me to get into this whole thing now that we have to. What skills would you recommend for people, for students, not just teachers, students and also professionals out there to adopt and adapt and implement a flipped learning model for education and for our own professional development?
Well, it might sound like a cliche, but the 21st century skills, you know, they're there for a reason. We have been talking about this for years. I guess it's 20 years into the 21st century, and we're still kind of resisting. A lot of people were resisting to these 21st century skills. And this situation, this pandemic, showed us that people with those 21st century skills are the ones that are succeeding. Those people who have an open mind, who are flexible, who are collaborators, who are not afraid to ask for help, who can call a friend and say, hey, I'm drowning, what can I do? Who not want to have control of everything, you know, like that's a very old-fashioned thing. I want to have everything controlled, and I want to have everything perfect and very squared. And in the 21st century, that doesn't work. And COVID-19 showed us you cannot have anything under control. I think I heard it from somebody at a university, like no university was ever prepared for this. No university, doesn't matter what their contingency plans were. They were not considering a pandemic. They were not considering going fully virtual in one semester. Some people did it in one day, like Unica, we did it in one day. Some people did it in 2 weeks. Some people did it in 3 weeks, but everyone had to do it, and nobody was ready for this. And you notice and you see that the more rigid people are, the more difficult this is for them. So for example, in my case, I'm pretty flexible and it's still being hard for me. So I cannot imagine a person who is rigid minded and who thinks, everything has to be this way. So I think we have to be very open with the whole 21st century skills, being communicators. We have to communicate among ourselves. We have to find a tribe. We have to find people that we can share this to. I think Twitter is a great platform for us to share information, for us to learn tips, for us to follow the right people, not the politicians in our country. Just a little heads up there. If we follow the right people, we follow teachers, we follow inspiring people, then we'll find lots of ideas, lots of things to do, lots of things to develop. Also, we need to develop the innovator's mindset. We need to have an innovator's mindset. And what's that? I read a great book by George Couros. Photobomb. I read a great book by George Couros. It's called The Innovator's Mindset, and there are eight things, but one of them is collaborating. Another one is communicating, critical thinking. Oh my God, I lost some of them. But anyway, the thing is, we need to start thinking outside of the box, thinking outside of having everything controlled, covering the curriculum. I think this pandemic showed all the schools that covering the curriculum is not a choice. It is not a choice. You have to pick your objectives. What do you want your kids to accomplish? Because parents are not going to cover any curriculum, so it's like, what skills do you need the kids to develop? What is the main thing that you actually need them to get? And you go for it. That's another one of my pillars for flipped learning. That's intentional content. When I flipped my class, that was the first thing I did, kind of trim that curriculum. What don't I need? What do I need more space for? There are so many things that we have there just because students have to learn them, but maybe they don't. Maybe that's just a whim. Me as a teacher, I just want them I want to teach them that specific piece of content, but what they need really is to develop competences, not to learn content.
How do you select meaningful activities that really meet the needs that you already know, because you've been analyzing the data that you get from your students and everything, and just by talking to them? But how do you select? What's the process that you go through to select actual, meaningful activities? Do you do them yourself, or do you have help in course design?
Okay, at this point, I'm doing myself all of my work. I'm designing my activities myself. But what I do first is, ask students. I mean, they are the ones who are going to receive them. They're the ones who are going to get, what they need. And I have to say that I differentiate my classes. So I at first, at the beginning of the semester, I always run a diagnostic test to make sure I know where my students are, what they like, what they need. And then based on that, I have a lot of information that helps me pick and choose the type of activities. Like, do I need audio, video, text? Do I need offline, online? Do I need colorful, not colorful? All those little things. And then I have my favorite strategies, like every teacher, I guess. So we all have our favorite strategies. Hyperdogs is one of them. I choose Hyperdogs over many things. Choice boards and learning menus. I love those, since I differentiate. The work of Carol Tomlinson has helped me a lot. She has a couple of really great books. One of them is a differentiated classroom, just like that. There is another one that is by Dubé and somebody, I lost the other name, but it's the flipped differentiated classroom. Oh my God, that's a great book. And it has a lot of ideas, a lot of tips on how to design your activities. So now I say that I do it myself, but it's because I've read so many books. So the differentiated classroom, Differentiation and the Brain by Carol Tomlinson and David Sousa. It's a great book as well. It has a lot of checklists, a lot of little things. Another one that is kind of a must for every teacher. I'm sorry, I use this book recommendation section now.
Great.
That is Mindset by Carol Dweck. It's about the growth and the fixed mindset. It also changed my life. The Differentiated Flipped Classroom and the Hyperdog Handbook. So those books were the ones that kind of built in me this style of planning. So I create choice boards, learning menus, like board games. I use Hyperdogs, videos, enhanced videos like with Edpuzzle or other tools. Videos, just for example, if I check an assignment, this is an activity that I love to do. I check an assignment. When you check an assignment, or when teachers check an assignment, other teachers, not you, not your audience, not our audience, other teachers, they just complain of the many mistakes students make. No, pero no aprendieron nada. They don't know anything. Why? What this happened? Look at this. What a horrible, oh my God, once again. You know, and so what I decided to do was, instead of having that conversation with myself, I'll just take notes of those mistakes and I construct a PowerPoint slideshow and I narrate it. I recorded using Screencast-O-Matic, which is my favorite tool for screen recording. And I recorded and then I'm like, okay, hello guys. So today, these are the mistakes you made in the theoretical framework assignment. First mistake, APA rules, boom, boom, boom. And I just go over the mistakes. I never identified the author of the mistake, but students love that. They're like, oh no, I watched that video and I identified 5 of my mistakes there. And the next assignment, guess what? You don't have those mistakes. Yeah, because it's kind of feedback. I do the feedback individually, of course, for each one of the students. But this is kind of like to highlight those competences that I needed them to get and they didn't get. So I guess you can do that with any assignment that you give to make students reflect about the process that they're going through.
Of course, that's like usually something you would do over a conversation, not over a video. So the time that you spend doing that, the detailed work that you spend doing that, it's worth it. Because when you see the effort that the teacher is doing in following up your progress and your work, it's more motivating than ever before. Now, Carolina, tell me, what exactly is Hyperdogs? Why should we learn about Hyperdogs and why is it important? How does it help you in class?
Okay, so Hyperdog is a worksheet on asterisks. A Hyperdog, it's a worksheet. It's a digital worksheet that is enhanced to allow for interaction with many different levels. Interaction with content, interaction with the teacher, and interaction among students, right? So you build a document, you can build it on any platform. Let's say you want to build it on Google Docs, or you want to build it on slides, or you want to build it on a website. I mean, it depends on whatever you feel more comfortable doing. But what it does is that it encapsulates the whole learning experience within one document, you know? So for example, in my case, how I started to use them, I was flipping my English class, my regular English, upper intermediate English, and I've always hated grammar. I've always hated to teach grammar, yeah, because I don't like it, period. I'm not going to go in depth in there. So I always hated the fact that you spend a million hours explaining things to students, and then they make those mistakes and they never internalize the structures. And it's so hard. I worked for 8 years in a language institute, and I saw that all the time happen. So I decided to flip my class, right? So I decided to have my students record videos of the grammar explanations, and then the others would watch the videos that some of the students recorded, because I was doing it in a teacher training program. So it made sense that they were the teachers. But then the first time I did that, that was awesome. Second time I did that, it was great. Third time I did that, third semester, my group of students said that I was lazy, that I didn't like to do my work, that I didn't like to teach, that an English class without an English book was a fake, that I was basically ripping them off, right? So I started to think, oh my God, how am I going to do this so that even the videos that my students design become part of something? But I don't like, I mean, in Unica, we didn't have books. We had a book, but we didn't like it. Like, we chose just a little bit, bits and pieces. And I started looking and looking. The students grew more and more frustrated. They hated the class. They hated me. Anyway, it was a bad time. Actually, I wrote a blog post about that. It's in my blog there. And I don't know, just looking, searching. I don't know how it happened. It just fell in my lap, Hyperdocs just fell in my lap. I read the book. I was like, oh my God, this is it. I can totally do this. So let's start. So the Hyperdog structure, you can use many structures, but it has one that is proposed by the authors in the book, in the Hyperdog handbook, is a 7-step structure that is engage, explore, explain, apply, share, reflect, and extend, right? So there's 7 pieces to the Hyperdog. So what I did was I designed Hyperdogs for grammar structures. So there was one Hyperdog for the simple present tenses. I was reviewing simple present, present continuous, and present perfect, I think. And so since I was starting in the whole socio-emotional learning vibe, I did that Hyperdog about being happy. It is actually called you are happy. We all, what is it? I am happy, you are happy, we are happy, something like that, kind of like to the present tense thing. And so I had my students in the engage part, I had an image and a meditation, and I used Dancer Garden for them to record their feelings about that meditation, being present in the moment, kind of like the whole mindfulness idea. Then in the explore section, we went onto the VIA character lab, and my students took the character strengths test. It's a lot of questions. I think it's 50 questions. All of them are in simple present tense. Do you like this? Do you do this? How do you react to this? When this happens, what do you do? And so my students were checking the structure, without knowing. They took that test, and that test gives you a list of 5 main character strengths. They're called the signature strengths. So supposedly, if you work on your signature strengths, then you can develop the ones you don't have so developed. There are 24. That's a whole different episode. And so the next I added the videos. I added the videos explaining the simple present tense in the explain section. Then in the apply section, they had to write about their 5 signature strengths using the simple present on a Google form. Then in the share, they shared that through Flipgrid. So I had them record a video sharing, saying, hi, my 5 character strengths are blah, blah, blah. Then they had to reflect about the whole Hyperdog experience. They were so disorganized the first time around. They didn't use it. They didn't dosify it. They were doing it all on a Saturday. That they learned so much about self-regulation. And then extend. So additional exercises if you want to practice this. What I did was I read all the comments in the reflect section, and I was like, oh my God, I found it. My students' grammar was better. They were using the simple present naturally and correctly. They were super aware of what they had done right and what they had done wrong. They were so excited about how much they had learned in that unit. And they felt it was the best learning experience they had had in grammar in a long time. I was like, oh my goodness, I found it. And so, of course, I started refining the process, because one semester later, I included a pay schedule so they knew what part of the Hyperdog they should have done by what date of the semester. And I added a grammar day. And the grammar day was like the culmination, was the climax of the whole experience, because it's when in the classroom, through in-class flip, I did stations of learning, and students were practicing the grammar orally with their classmates, interacting face-to-face. That was fabulous. And so through, that's kind of a research paper project that I still have to write. But it was a research process of many semesters. Many semesters it took me to find that Hyperdogs were the strategy that I needed to use to get my students using the grammar, internalizing the grammar, and, actually getting it.
Cool. Wow, so much to learn about Hyperdogs then and how to use them.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
You gotta read that book.
Awesome. You gave us some book recommendations just a few minutes ago. Are there any other websites? Where can we read your research work, Carolina?
Well, I have some research on my Google Scholar page. You just look for me, Carolina R. Buitrago, on Google Scholar, and you can find my articles, like the more, let's say, academic publications. But if you want, the fresh, like teacher kind of talk, you can go to my blog, crbuitrago.com.
Awesome.
That's where I kind of put stuff. It's a little outdated because during this quarantine, I haven't written much. The last post is 2020. It's the year when I'm going to write a lot, and
I
no,
know.
it's not. It's not happening.
I checked it out, and I saw that post, and I said, I guess
How's that working out for you, lady? No,
she
not
must have-
working out so well.
she must have been busy lately.
Yeah, it's been rough, but I have a couple posts kind of like in the cooking, so
Awesome.
Yeah.
I hope you write more, and we can read more. I love reading blogs. I don't follow the news that much. I do watch the news, but I don't follow the news cycle. I am more into following colleagues, and my personal learning network is something that is very, very valuable to me. It's something I've been doing for the past 20, 25 years since I started teaching and got into education, because there was so much to learn from all the colleagues. Every time you go to a seminar, every time you go to a workshop, sometimes you get bored, or you see people that may get bored in those places.
Yeah.
But the truth is, there is a lot of knowledge, just the real knowledge going on, because you read it in books, then you as a practitioner do it in class, then you can talk about it, of what's really happening here. I wanted to ask you about the importance of kids creating content, and when they do, the importance of recognizing their work. Do you ask your students to create content, and if you do, how much of it do you, and what's the planning process with them?
Well, I think that's pivotal. I mean, actually, if we look at the revised version of Bloom's taxonomy, the last part now is creating. Before it was evaluating, but then Crethel and Anderson in 2002 analyzed that, and they realized that creating was an important part of their learning process. And only when you create is when you can really tell if you have learned or not. And so, also with all the offer of digital tools nowadays, I mean, our students can create things that we would have never imagined. Like you ask them to do something, and then they surprise you with all the great things they can do. So, for example, in my case, all of my classes, all of my courses, they have products. Right now, I'm teaching academic writing. I'm teaching micro-teaching middle education, which is a class for teaching pre-service teachers how to teach teenagers. And I'm teaching Principios de Investigación. That's a Spanish class. It's a class in Spanish. And all of them have different products. The academic writing and the Principios de Investigación, they will have a paper. It's a one-pager where, the academic writing is going to be a one-pager that we are going to put on a website for people to read. Like not only us, people in the world. Yeah. Principios de Investigación will have a poster. They will put their project in a poster, and we'll have a mini poster session. I'm still working out the logistics with this whole pandemic, but I always have these kinds of presentations where my students present not only to me, but to guest professors in other universities, so that they are facing a real audience. They're becoming real researchers since their semester. Yeah.
Right. As
So
they should.
there's always that. With some courses, I've had the topic of privacy, because they're more private. There are people who are more private than others. But in any case, I have a private Facebook group where we share our stuff to us, but we share. Anyway, always there's sharing. There's poster making, video creation, podcast making, you name it. There's always something that students have to create, because if they don't create, if they're not capable of creating, how are they going to know
Right.
that they learned? For example, in the micro-teaching middle education class, they have to create a lesson plan. They have to create movie workshops and a Hyperdog. They have to get into, they have to get their hands dirty with the teacher's job. That is to create materials, to create lessons,
Yeah.
definitely, I'm up for it. And I think that's another of the flipped learning mandates, that students are the ones at the center of the learning process, and that they create. And what I create is just to model, what they can create later.
Cool. Now, Let's change the topic a little bit. Let's talk about education as a whole, and not just education, but really life. What accelerating changes in education and in normal life do you foresee, and the role of educators in the near and the long-term future, Carolina?
Well, I think what the pandemic did was to just push us all off a cliff. It was like that cliff, we were kind of hanging on to that tree back there. I don't want to go, I don't want to go. But then the pandemic just pushed us all. It was like, okay, whatever, you have no more time. There's no more time to say that technology is not the thing. No, I mean, we just realized how pervasive technology is in our lives. It's everywhere. Even though there are connectivity issues in some areas of our country and there are still some difficulties, we can say that maybe 60% of the population, I'm guessing, have some access to it, either through a phone or through a computer or through internet. And that's another thing, we had to realize the importance of this and how it facilitates life. The contexts that don't have technology, that don't have connectivity, are doing great efforts to get it because they know this can extend to the second semester of the year. They know they may have to do this. They're even considering canceling the academic year, and many things because of the lack of technology. So we kind of know that the role of technology nowadays is pivotal, right? Another thing that I'm really glad we're learning is that we are humans and we matter. We're not machines, we're not robots, we're not productivity. Yeah, that's the whole capitalistic idea of produce, but we're realizing that people, depression, anxiety, all these things are becoming real now. They're becoming tangible. We're seeing people really affected by this, and so we are realizing, and the World Health Organization has shown us the importance of mental health, as part of our life. It's not something we have to hide anymore. It's not something we have to cover with our fingers. It's not. We can't. If we want to operate as a society, we cannot ignore the human being in its human dimension anymore. It's not, I work 24/7 and I study 24/7 and I don't know. We need to know that taking a shower matters, doing exercise matters, eating well matters, talking to people matters, going for a walk matters, having friends, relationships, building strong relationships with your family, taking care of your kids, all those things matter. And so I think if something is going to be learned out of this pandemic, not only by people, but from institutions as well, is that if you don't take care of the people, then you got nothing. Because you cannot do anything with sick people, with mentally affected people. You cannot do anything. Your company's not going to move, So I think that's another huge lesson that we're learning. And another one is the importance of family. I think that's something that is being learned. I have a few friends or acquaintances that are spending this quarantine alone, and they regret it. Yeah, the first days it was cool. They were watching all the Netflix series they wanted to watch. But what happens when those series run out? What happens when you got nothing else to do? You realize that people next to you are the ones that matter. And so for us parents, I think it's been priceless. We've learned so much from our kids. We've learned so much from our family. So when all this passes and we go back to working in a face-to-face environment, we will cherish much more the moments that we have with our family. Also, I think we're learning something else about technology and social networks, and it's how manipulative they are. Manipulative, sorry, Colombian accents.
How so? Cool.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
so?
Yeah,
How so
because
manipulative?
you have to, you said it, you have to stop following social media if you want to keep
Right.
your mind sane.
Of course.
If people just send whatever they want, and we are learning to protect ourselves from that. We're learning to turn the phone off. We're learning to, it's I think we're getting, probably I'm romantic. Yes, I am very, but we're gonna come out better people out of this.
But we are. You have to be. You have to.
You
You
have
have
to
to be
be.
positive. Think that it's inevitable. Change is
Yeah.
coming. It's been coming for the past 30 years, 40 years. It's coming. It's
Yeah.
here.
Yeah,
And there's
absolutely.
nothing you can do about it. Just make the best of it. I think the future, it's not unimaginable. Not really. If you do your research, you can pretty much see what's coming on. Just like we did
Yeah.
some 15, 20 years ago. And that's why you're doing what you're doing these days, because
Yeah,
you got into
absolutely.
it a long time ago. Awesome. Now, two more questions. First of all, flipping the classroom is one thing. A lot of us have been flipping the classroom for years. A lot of us have been trying to do that for years. And a lot of us have been trying to get into the flipped learning mentality. I myself consider one of one of the people that are driven by technology, and I believe that it's just gonna make us better. Now the process of getting there, it's painful, just like most things in life change. Now the question is, after you flip the classroom, after you do that, how do you go to the next level? How do you get that mentality? How do you get that mindset to get into flipped learning? What would be the one thing you could advise to others to actually look at and start there?
Well, this might sound like advertisement, but it's not. But there is, John Bergman has really worked on moving Flip Learning along. He created his company, which is Flip Learning Global Initiative, and he has involved a lot of us in there. You know, like I've participated in a couple of the certifications. There is one certificate level 2, which is certificate level 1 is the basics of flip learning, so you can buy that and you can do that course and get certified. Yeah. And it's basics, you know, like 12 units where you learn about the basics of flip learning. What are the spaces? How do you do it? What are the tools? You know, all those basic things you need to know to start. Then in certification level 2, you're going to find different methodologies that you can kind of include into it. So for example, that's where in-class flip appears in the picture. I did that with my friend and colleague, Marta Ramirez. Shout out to Marta, who is also a great flipper in our country. She is amazing and she's doing a great job spreading the word. So you should have her too in the show.
It would be awesome. It would be
Yeah,
awesome if we could.
absolutely.
That would be great.
She's done amazing work as well. And we are both part of the certification level 1, level 2 with our in-class flip idea. We finished our book. We're just revising. So hopefully it will come published this year. It's been there for like 2 years, you know, not getting published, but it will.
It's now time.
And yeah, it is about time.
It is.
And
It's great.
then there are other level of certifications, like for lesson planning on the flipped environment, for differentiated instruction in the flipped environment, and all of that you can find through John Bergman's platform, Flip Learning Global Initiative, which is now a community of teachers that is global. You know, so he invited us to revise the standards for flip learning. There is a periodic table of 87 standards. So like if you want to flip your class and know if you're flipping it well, just go ahead and check the standards out. That'll let you know what you're doing for the group learning space, the individual learning space, assessment, planning, differentiation, all of it, you know. So I guess that would be a great place to start. There are great blogs, there are great bloggers like Crystal Kirch. I love Crystal Kirch. Like Kate Baker. I love Kate Baker. You know, like the tribe about flip learning out there is awesome. David Wash. A big shout out to all my flipper friends out there. You can find them all on Twitter. Just, you know, hashtag flip learning.
Oh yeah.
You'll find them all. Domingo Chica from
Oh yeah.
Spain.
Oh yeah. There's a whole
Yeah.
tribe out there. I've been following you for years, and
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and the
Oh, yeah,
people
there's
that
a
have
whole
led
tribe.
this movement for many years, and it was not a common
Yeah.
practice in the past. It had been getting very popular lately. A lot of the work that you have
Oh,
done
yeah.
in the community, I know, and Martha and many others. But now it's just a must. I think it's just one of the tools, one of the mindsets that you have to get on your on your tool belt and say, I'm ready to go. Flip learning, checked. That's how I think.
Yeah.
Awesome, very good, Carolina.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm gonna let you go. I have
Absolutely.
some questions, real quick questions. Just your thoughts on self-regulated learning, please.
Love self-regulated learning research. Actually, one of my papers is about that. It's about flipped learning developing self-regulation. It just is natural. Students need to be autonomous for this to work, and Colombian students are not autonomous by nature because the system of education is not autonomous by nature. So when you get to universities and you're pushing these kids to become autonomous, to be self-regulated, you run into a lot of bad habits that they bring. So yeah, you flip your class, you get self-regulation. It's a result.
Of course, cool, cool. Your thoughts on universal design for learning, Carolina?
Well, I'm still a toddler in that, but you definitely have to check it out. We should stop designing for the average. We have to start designing for everyone, including everyone. Um, Multiculturality, diversity in many different areas, different learning styles and learning preferences, because learning styles is kind of debunked already. But yeah, it's stop focusing on the average student. We gotta focus on the one on the top and on the one on the bottom. Yeah, if we design for them, the ones in the middle will be included. So what am I gonna do for this super fast finisher, fast getter? The one who gets it all and messes up my class because gets bored. And what am I gonna do about that student who gets so confused, who cannot pick up things so easily, who needs extra help? So if I think about these two end learners, then it's easy to just, include the rest. So I heard it in 2018 from Aaron Sams himself, who I love very much. Design for the fringe, design for the ones outside. Then you'll include everybody. That's what I know about UDL.
Cool, cool, cool. And one more thing, visual literacy, graphs, infographics, advertisement, lists, schedules, catalogs, non-continuing text. How important is that in today's classroom?
Essential. It's essential. We need to help our learners because that's the way they think. We might think analogly, I have a master's degree in technology, but I still have a notebook for everything. But our kids, our students, they don't. They see things in a different way. Their perspective of the world is different. It's visual. They are visual. They consume visual, they produce visual. So definitely we have to learn about it. We have to include all those things you mentioned and more.
Now, again, thank you for sharing. There's so much knowledge out there. I recommend people to follow your blog, follow you on Twitter, make you a part of their
Thank you.
learning, of their personal learning network, which is very, very important who you surround yourself with. And
Yeah.
once again, thank you for being with us in Colombian Accents, Carolina. And I'll see you on the flip side.
Yeah, see you on the flip side. You can follow me on Twitter. It might sound like a YouTuber thing, but it's true. At Carolina Buitrago. You can follow me on Twitter, and there I connect you to everything else.
Awesome, awesome. See you. Be safe, and I hope
See
to
you.
reunite again and share times again. Be
Oh,
cool.
hopefully. Yeah, that'll be nice. Thank you, Julian.
Bye, Carolina. Thanks again.
Bye. Okay.
Cheers.
You're listening to Colombian Accents Podcast. This is what we sound like, and this is what we have to say.